The time is upon us. We've heard his bellows from afar. Can you hear him? He's approaching. And what say you? Is that you? Hello there! The fog separates and he appears from the shadows. He transforms before our very eyes and walks upon the earth. He is the Crow.
So, I think absolutely... wait, hold it. Let's check. Yes! We are, in fact, here at the maiden voyage of this brand new show called Eat Crow. And that's not just a suggestion, it's an advisement. So, you know where to find me. Open wide. Bitter. Anyway, thank you all so much for tuning into this maiden voyage of we don't know what the hell's going to happen next, because that's the way I like to live my life. Why make plans and why look to see what's going on? Sort of like if you were, I don't know, a pilot on Malaysian Airways.
Ouch.
Ouch, nothing. Don't say too soon. We've been pulling this bullshit for weeks. Joining me tonight on this maiden voyage are a couple of guys from a band that absolutely... We want to talk... I would talk about sickly, phenomenally amazing musicians, but that would be an understatement. We've got Jamie Kime and Pete Griffin from the band Griffin Labs. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Lean into the mic, because
Yes, of course.
let's make sure they're working. So, for the record, I have known Jamie for
20.
Wow. Quite a while. And I know you're going to blow this compliment off as you typically do, because you're an incredibly humble human being. Jamie Kime is, without a doubt, one of the best guitar players I've ever seen and heard in my entire life, period, bar none. Other than that, fuck off. Seriously.
I'm not going to blow that off. I'm going to agree with you.
Cool.
As will I, of course.
Yeah. No, seriously, you can sit down with this guy and he'll have a guitar in his hand and suddenly his fingers will do these things. You're going, do fingers do that? And sense of music and melody and just the understanding of music, just I'll never be that good, even though I'll try, because I'm a guitar player. But I mean,
You're a great guitar player.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if people here get to experience that part of your talent, but
not directly, but thank you. So let's, as we get into what is Griffin Labs, let's for a moment. When did you pick up the guitar? How did that come to be?
probably like a lot of people, when I was a kid. I picked it up when I was about 9 years old. So, you know.
Yeah. And what prompted you? What was the thing? I mean, what made you go, oh, I want to do that?
Chicks.
At 9?
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Me too was like, they have cooties. Good, I want that.
Yeah. Eventually I'll like that.
Right.
And I better be well armed because
Yeah?
obviously I wasn't going to be a jock.
Right.
Yeah, so
So you picked up the guitar, and then where was the evolution of that? I mean, was there a particular band or any sort of music that you went, oh, I really love that, and that sort of fueled the fire, so to speak?
well, I think like a lot of people of my age group, when I was
And by the way, we're all 17 in this room, so
Yeah.
let's be clear about that up front.
I'm 16, actually.
Yes.
yeah, I just turned 18 for the record.
And he doesn't know what he wants.
Yeah, but you know, Zeppelin, Hendrix, Jeff Beck.
All right.
you know, the usual suspects, and those were my influences.
All
when I
right,
was a kid.
but to get more specific, I mean, in terms of those bands, yeah, but was there, I don't know, a particular song that you heard? Was there, I mean, like, a guy like Jeff Beck, I mean, the body of work is huge, but there's some seminal pieces, there's some stuff that you hear, you know, like We Ended as Lovers, and you hear something like that, and it kicks you in the ass and takes you to another place. Is there something that you heard that you went, oh shit?
Wow, that's a good question.
Told you I was going to interview mercilessly.
I'm sure that there were a couple of moments with Beatles records, know, that I heard that were like, wow, I want to do that. I want to make that sound. I started playing drums first when I was about 7 years old. That was taking lessons and all that. Because it's easier for a 7-year-old to play drums than it is the guitar.
Hit shit with sticks.
Yeah, and so...
And by the way, we can swear on this show. Feel free to say fuck, fuckity, fucking, and fucking... By the way, there may be some fucking place later, only if it goes right. But anyway.
Awesome. Well, and then I specifically remember a couple of, hey, look at this guy.
So you guys just went ahead and started, huh?
Yeah, why not?
We have another member of Griffin Labs joining us, and your name is?
Lee.
Lee
Wertman.
Lee Wertman.
Lee Wertman, and you play?
Poorly.
Great. Good. We won't talk to him because apparently he plays poorly and admits it up front. So thank you for your honesty. You can leave now. I'm kidding.
Lee is our other phenomenal guitar player in the band.
Second guitar.
Cool.
Not second, other.
Awesome. I'm Brian, by the way.
Hey, Brian.
Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Nice to be here.
Traffic on the 405 was a
which is traffic on the 405 is a redundancy.
Yeah.
Just insane. Yeah.
So, anyways, before he interrupted me,
son of a bitch.
What I was saying was,
Lee. God damn it.
Who knows, man? I mean, I think there were a couple of incidences where I remember being a kid and seeing the Raspberries on Don Kirshner's rock concert and thinking that was really cool,
right?
And then I got Led Zeppelin 1. I got the first Led Zeppelin album,
right,
and I put it on, and track 1 is Good Times, Bad Times, and as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh yeah.
You're like,
I'm in.
Just Good Times. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then Band of Gypsies was another one. I was like, how the fuck is he making that sound? I need to do that.
So here's my thing, because if anybody out there went and listened to those 2 records, and certainly those first 2 tracks, phenomenal. And yet to take it where you have taken the guitar from that to what it is that you do, you've been on tour with Zappa Plays Zappa. And again, I'm really not blowing smoke up your ass. How incredibly prolific that you are in terms of like, oh, here's a piece of music, just go play something, and it's just like sick shit. What was it that brought you from hearing that to? Was there a lot of studying? I know that Ted Green was was a guy that certainly was influential. Where did all of that grow out of?
I mean, it's. I think it's just something that's just over years morphed into this weird little style, But
right.
I mean, along the way, I kind of started getting into more progressive rock, if you will, when I was in like early teens, and then started getting into a lot of jazz and all of that as a teenager. And then that all just sort of congealed and spooged together into one big, dry
sticky
lump of crap. Yeah. So,
cool.
But who knows where it all comes from? I mean, I just listened to a lot of different players, and I really liked all of them. And that's some kind of a bullshit thing. Oh, I like all kinds of music, but I really did like all kinds of music.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, I've very much the same sort of approach. It's like there's a bunch of stuff that I like. In fact, if you took the amount of different music that I like and balanced it with what I don't like, there's a bunch of shit that I don't like. But the amount that I do like is a much grander scale, and it's much broader in terms of its sonic perspective. And that's, I think, probably informs what it is that you do.
Yeah, I think so too. And then playing with, because I know a lot of players that they have similar backgrounds, but but playing with, putting yourselves in situations where you get to play with a lot of different types of players who are better than you. Like in my case, I get
Yeah, and we're going to get to these motherfuckers in a minute. Don't think you're off the hook. I'm coming for you in a minute.
And that gooses you to sort of like play better and sort of play on a higher level than you.
So let's talk about that and around the room. So in terms of who you choose to play with, that idea that you're in a room with other musicians that that push you and prod you and move you to someplace else? Is that a conscious thing, or is it something that just sort of happens?
Well, part of it is surroundings,
Right.
environment. I'm really, really lucky that the keyboard player that I...
And by the way, this is Pete Griffin over here talking.
the keyboard player that I... Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you all. Yes. Keep going. No, the keyboard player that I wound up playing with when I first picked up the bass, really,
Right.
in 8th grade, was like a jazz prodigy who was my age, but just miles beyond.
What was his name?
Ehud Asheri. He's still.
That's easy to pronounce. That's a great name to grow up with.
EHUD ASHERIE. You should look him up. He's got some amazing records.
Probably, but the opening day of every year at school was fucked
for
up
him.
for every one of his teachers going, I time in that much.
Yeah.
And where are you sitting? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But so just kind of having to keep up with him,
Sure.
early on, kind of was like, oh man, I got to practice. And then he sort of went more into the jazz realm, and I sort of went more into the funk rock fusion kind of realm. But
Okay.
having that, and also just having a really good... I went to a public school, but we had a great music department with great teachers and stuff. I was always hanging out in the band room when I was cutting class. Sorry, Mom. I mean, free classes.
You mean study hall?
Yes.
Study hall.
Yeah, during lunch. So just having like an environment that kind of breeds creativity and wanting to get better at something that at the same time that I had this great band teacher who like was letting us come in and jam and was really good at leading the jazz band and kind of gave me my love of improvisation in general.
Sure.
At the same time, he would say, I cannot recommend a career in music to anybody. So
Wise
it's
man.
Like, hey, look how awesome this is. But at the same time, he's like, look, you realize that this isn't the smartest thing in terms of longevity and stuff. And I was too far in love with the idea of playing music for a living to really listen to him.
Which is where true art comes from.
Right.
So good
Yeah,
for you.
You have to sort of ignore the warnings in
Right.
some ways, and that for me, that's really what it was. I just coming from a place where there was tons of music all around me. I wound up being a bass player. You're kind of in a smaller pool to choose from. There are just fewer bass players out there than there are guitar players and drummers and singers.
Sure.
So immediately I was playing with a lot of people who were older than me. Which, like Jamie was saying, and like you're saying, like being around people who are better than you makes you better.
Absolutely.
Even if you're kind of getting your ass kicked in that situation. I always tell, I teach a lot, and I tell my students, like, a sonic ass kicking is the best learning that you can ever have. You
Yep.
know, I once I met up with that same piano player a few years later when he was hosting this, like, crazy straight ahead jam session at this place called Smalls in New York City, and I got up on the upright, and I'm okay on upright. I'm much more of an electric player, and he starts calling off some tunes, and like I'm plunking away at this one, and he has to like stop it and be like, "Yeah, let's just play a blues." Yeah, it doesn't seem like that.
Ouch.
Yeah, and it was like tail between the legs, go home.
All right, look,
and cry myself to sleep.
I'll tell you a story. Maybe it'll make you feel a little bit. So, one of my teachers up in the Bay Area, just for a brief period of time, was Joe Satriani.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That guy. Chicken something. I don't know. Anyway, so one of the lessons. I mean, I only had it was like 3 or 4 lessons, but in one of them, he starts doing this 12-bar thing. He goes, "We're going to do it like a 12-bar blues thing, and we're going to jam together." So we start playing, and I'm doing rhythm, and Joe goes into his Joe thing, which, you go, "Oh my God." And this was before Surfing with the Alien came out, so it was like, but he's doing his thing, and I absolutely lose it. I have no idea where the hell I am, I'm gone, because I'm just glaring, going, "Oh my God." And he literally stops, and he throws up his hands, and he goes, "That's it. I'm never jamming with you again until you learn how to count."
Yeah.
Oh, shit. So, yeah, that
Now
same
you know
kind
how
of
to
thing.
count, I bet.
Totally.
Yeah.
I drove home that night just like 1, 2, 3, 4. 2. Totally.
Yeah.
No, you get an ass kicking like that, and you go, "Yeah, no, I'm an asshole." And he was great. He goes, "Look, you never know what's going to happen on stage. You never know what's going to draw your attention. Your job is to do this." And it was like, Thank you, Mr. Satriani. Yeah, just fucking bad. So, yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that's actually kind of being lost today in the YouTube generation, where people think that they're getting instruction online.
Yeah.
No, they're not yelling at you.
No.
They're not pointing out your foibles and your failings and all that stuff.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah,
They're
certainly
just showing you what you can do.
Yeah, they'll give you the
actually.
information, but nobody's there going, oh, by the way, oh, your fingers are the wrong place.
Yeah.
None of
That
that.
sounds like shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kids, get out there and take guitar lessons and bass lessons with
Yeah.
an actual person.
I mean, in fact, actually, when the show's over, I think I'm gonna go get the URL. Whyisthisnotesoundbad.com.
There you go.
I'm gonna go own that fucker. So Lee, moving on to you, and then we're gonna get to the whole group as a moment. So let's talk about you and your background.
Okay.
Cool. That's enough of that.
I'm curious to know too.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
None of us-
what was
yeah.
your
I didn't-
first musical moment that you could okay,
Yeah,
this is
so-
what I want to
so,
do.
So what brought you into the folds of Griffin Labs? What brought you to playing guitar, and why doing what it is that you guys do? And shortly we are going to play some Griffin Labs. So there you go.
I started lessons when I was 8.
Really?
Yeah. I think my mom, just looking at me, knew I was either going to be a drummer or a sax player when the school band started.
So you play guitar, perfect.
So she introduced a nice, quiet acoustic guitar before I could get to those louder things.
Right.
That failed miserably, of course. But I had a great teacher, and I took lessons for a long time, and then I finally started playing with this band,
Yeah.
which was cool, a fun thing to do when you're in your early teens and sneak into a bar. I had a long duster coat like Eric Clapton had in
Right.
the Forever Man video. So I would wear that coat in the bars at like 14, 15.
Where was this at? Where? What part of the country were you
in
in?
rural Pennsylvania.
Oh,
Yeah. And Greg Howe, who's, Greg Howe?
of course.
Yeah, he's from around the same town. Mm-hmm. And I met him, I was like maybe 16 or something like that. And before I had met him, there wasn't, like, unlike what these guys were saying, there weren't a lot of great musicians in my town.
Sure.
So meeting him was a big deal because he was a great guitar player.
Yeah.
He wasn't just a good guitar player, he was a great world-class guitar player.
Right.
And he was really cool to me, and just we started jamming, and he invited me to play on one of his records, which was really cool.
So was it anything that he did with Mike Varney?
Yeah.
I know Mike from way back. We'll talk later.
Oh,
but
is that right?
Oh, totally.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, me and Mike Varney almost died one night. I'll tell you that story later.
Oh, wow. I have the check from playing on that record. It's from Mike Varney Shrapnel Records for $25.
Well, that's more than Mike usually pays to anybody. Congratulations for that.
I've saved it. Yeah. And then I started going to the Baked Potato, which, have we talked about the Baked Potato?
No, we're going to get to the potato because the baked potato for anybody out there in Los Angeles, if there is, to Catholics, there's the Vatican. To musicians in Los Angeles, there's the baked potato. The Vatican has better funding, more decorations, but their food is nowhere near as good. So, fuck off, we win.
Fuck off, Vatican!
yeah.
Yes.
Take that.
Yeah, and by the way, we've molested far fewer choir boys, but we're open to negotiations. Anyway, so we will absolutely talk about the potato. So, what is the genesis of Griffin Labs? And then we're going to play a track. So, how did the lab open?
I had been just writing a bunch of tunes on
Yeah.
my own for many, many years. I got into the Zappa band and met Jamie and...
I'm sorry, excuse my ignorance. So you were doing the Zappa?
Yeah, I played
Awesome.
some,
That's
bass
how we
for-
met.
Yeah. For Zappa Plays Zappa for 6 years from... maybe not 7, but 5.5. From 2006 to 2011. So late 2011 is when I left. And, I was a huge Zappa fan growing up, so playing that music on a regular basis for screaming fans was a weird dream come true that I never thought could.
Sure.
And all that. And Jamie and I kind of immediately hit it off, and the drummer who... is on a bunch of the tunes on the record, Joe Travers, who also used to play in Zappa Plays Zappa. I realized that the three of us being sort of the rhythm section behind all the madness in the Zappa music,
Right.
kind of had something going on, and there were parts in the show where Jamie would get a chance to take a solo and do that amazing stuff that he does. and I'd get one, and Joe would get one, and I realized in listening to Jamie's solo, I was like, you know what? I feel like adding that on top of these songs that I've been writing might be what I've been missing this whole time.
It couldn't hurt.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to make a song worse having Jamie wail over it. So the first tune on the record is called Oslo, and it was basically that right there is the genesis of the project. He came over to my apartment with a tiny little guitar amp, and what just happened?
What was that? That was
that your phone?
There's a button right here that says fail, and I didn't realize it was an actual working button.
Me neither. This is new. Wow, hold it. Wow, you know what? I never want to see those next to my bed. That would be like, honey,
Immediate feedback.
sorry. Yeah. Actually, though, I would like to actually have this when I send in my taxes to the IRS.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there you go. All right,
so Jamie came over with his little 8-inch guitar combo. Threw a mic.
Is that
in
what you
front
call
of it? Yeah, really.
Okay.
Threw a mic in front of it in my apartment. We recorded the solo. That actually is the solo that's on the record. It was before I had even had any plans of going into a studio with the stuff. But what he played that day was just exactly what I was looking for, and without me even knowing about it. And it was like, okay, and then I wound up writing a bunch of other tunes kind of around that concept, and I found a great producer to help me do the record. Roger.
Who's the producer?
His name is Roger Cole. He's worked with pretty much everyone in the music industry, but a lot of the work he's done has been with the band Little Feat.
All right.
So through him, we were able to get, that's him taking the solo right now, several members of Little Feat to play on the record.
Wow.
Which was really amazing. It was yet another of those, who am I that I have Paul Barrere taking slide solos on my record. And actually we had Richie Hayward, who passed away about 4 years ago, the drummer from Little Feat from the beginning, who's just an iconic drummer. He's one of the most recorded drummers in history. He's on as many other people records as he is on Little Feat records. And so he had them come in and play on a couple tracks, and that kind of took it to a different level. And we really spent a lot of time, probably more than we should have, picking sounds and lining everything up and really.
But it was a good
getting
time.
into the details. It was
Right?
awesome. I learned so much about just making records and the music that I wanted to make and all that. So that was just exciting. But the first record it's not a band so much. Jamie and I are pretty much the only ones that are on every track. There's different drummers on other tracks. There's other guests and stuff like that. Since we've been a band for longer, we've kind of, the current lineup, including Lee, who joined about 2 years ago,
Maybe.
2 or 3, and then our drummer Andy Sinisi, we sort of have taken it all in a new direction, and it's not just me writing the material anymore and contributing. It's more of a band thing than a Pete Griffin solo project, which
Right.
is never what I wanted to begin with. I'm not the type of bass player that's going to make a record that's all bass solos, because I don't listen to that. I find that boring.
Right.
It's boring as hell. I want to make good music that happens to have cool bass lines and things like that. So
let's do this. We're going to take a moment and stop our gabbing, and let's play Oslo. And this is Griffin Labs and the seminal track, and we will continue the conversation shortly. Stay tuned. This is. I'm so used to the old show title. Fuck that. This is Eat Crow. Open wide and enjoy Oslo.
Revive your existing site. We've got you covered. For more information.
Wow! That was Griffin Labs, that was Oslo, and that was a bad motherfucker is what that was. Apparently in 5, because I had to ask, because I tried to count and my counting skills are slipping. That was really, really cool.
Cool. Thanks a lot, man.
Brought down the wrong fader. I've said that more times than I can imagine. So, how did you guys end up playing? I mean, playing in Zappa Plays Zappa is not something. I mean, you know what? That's just not something that just shows up every day on the resume. It's not. It won't ever be. How did that happen? Both of you at the same time talk over each other. Go.
Yes.
Well, I had actually around. When did the band get together? 2006
it
is
finally
when we
happened.
started. So
Yeah.
I had known Dweezil Zappa for a couple of years previous to that, and it was probably around 2004 when he had.
Are you asking me?
Well, yeah, I am actually.
Yes,
You were
it was
there, weren't you?
2004.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Nice move, Lee.
Yeah.
There you go.
Lee on the sound effects.
But Dweezil he had approached me and told me about this idea that he had to do this band that would playing his father's music and to maybe take it out on the road and go on tour, and asked me if I wanted to be involved with that. And my first reaction was, I don't know, it sounds really hard. So I'll have to think about it.
Right?
And about 30 seconds later, I said, "Yeah, definitely let me know, if you get it off the ground." So
But
then
how did you and Dweezil even meet? I mean,
we met through. I can't remember the guy's name now, but it was a mutual friend that we had between us who introduced us, and then we started kind of geeking out on gear, and I would go over there to the old UMRK, and
right,
and he was building this big crazy guitar rig, and I was kind of like helping him with different pedals, and we were just and
like
for those who don't
making
know,
music,
yeah,
for those who don't know, UMRK stands for Utility Muffin Research Kitchen, which was the name of Frank Zappa's studio.
right?
So it was up there, and so then about around mid 2005, he was like, "Okay, we're gonna start rehearsing. I'm gonna put this thing together. Are you still interested?" And I was like, "Sure." Well, something happened, and it didn't come together in 2005. So, fast forward to February of 2006, when I was actually working I was working for a company, like a music manufacturing company, whose name I won't mention, and I had just left that company. Well, to be honest, I had been fired. And,
I've done that.
Yeah, and I think it was literally the next day. It was like February 3rd, I think, was when it was actually my birthday, and I can remember that because it was my birthday. The next day, Dweezil called me and he's like, "Hey," he goes, "are you still interested in doing the band thing that we were talking about?" And I said, "Absolutely." He goes, "Great, we're going to start rehearsals in 2 weeks." He goes, "Come by the house and pick up. I'll have some CDs with tunes on them." I was like, "Okay," and I went over and just like 3 CDs full of just this crazy music. And I had been not a Zappa fan the way that Pete was a Zappa fan. I was more of a casual. I have Hot Rats, Apostrophe, the records that everyone has,
right?
And so of all the tunes on these CDs that were the initial tunes, maybe 4 or 5 of them I had heard before. The rest were all, and it was just crazy shit. So that began in that first year. I think we rehearsed like for basically 3 months solid, like 5-6 days a week. That became like a full-time job. That's what we did. And it was pretty intense. And I remember just going through horrible bouts of sleeplessness and depression and
why
and and not eating and I almost quit on a few occasions because it was one of the craziest, most intense experiences of my life. But after a couple of months it started coming together, and where I was like, I remember having a couple of those moments at rehearsal where it's like, hey, wait a minute, this is sounding pretty fucking good right now, man. This is not bad. And then that first year, Terry Bozzio and Steve Vai were in the band.
Oh, who?
And then they came in like the last month and started playing with us, and that's when we all kind of started, I think at least for me, I started kind of looking around the room at everyone going, this is going to be pretty badass.
Right?
But, you know, like Pete comes in, like for me, it was like, one of the hardest things for me is because Dweezil's already playing a lot of the melodies and a lot of the lines, you know, and the bass player plays the bass parts, the drummer plays the drum parts, keyboard plays. And so for me, there wasn't always a clear-cut second guitar or rhythm guitar part, because some of those tunes don't have any guitar, you know, and so for me, it was just a matter of finding my spot in the band and finding what my role.
Right,
in the
where's
band
your
was
place
gonna be.
in the sun?
And then after that started coming together, you know, so I didn't show up day one really knowing what the fuck I was going to play or what was going on with any of the tunes. I tried to listen to the tunes, and some of them were real obvious, like, okay, here's the song, and, you know, and then we would just kind of get in there and arrange it. You know, like Pete comes in the first day and knew everything, you know, and even the stuff that we weren't playing, he and Joe would just start playing it together, and I'm just like, who is this fucking guy?
That's always
And,
great
yeah.
in rehearsal when a couple of the guys know the songs
Know
and
everything.
they just start playing
And
it,
they insist
and then
on
you
playing
stand
it.
in the
Yeah.
corner and just enjoy
Yeah.
it. I couldn't imagine what that would be like, guys.
But it was a crazy
Dirty
experience.
sarcasm.
We're going to get to that in a moment because I hear a hook. I hear that. So you came into it how? And clearly a love of the Zappa music, obviously.
Yeah, I got really, really lucky, basically. I had known Joe Travers just through some mutual friends of ours and stuff around town. Joe's main day job, it still is he's the Vaultmeister, which means he's in charge of all the recordings that Frank ever made, including rehearsals and all that stuff. Like Joe has cataloged all of it and knows what's on every tape of every different medium from the past 60 years. So I knew him from some stuff around town. When they had started getting the thing together in 2005, another bass player was involved named Brian Beller, who is an amazing bass player and now a really good friend of mine. But he wasn't able to do it when they sort of actually made it happen in 2006, so they had to audition some people. So Joe called me because he knew I was a Zappa fan. He had been to my place and seen all the CDs on the rack, and he was like, "Oh, you're a big Zappa fan?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm trying not to geek out around you because I know that's your day job and maybe you don't want to talk about it." He's like, "Oh, no, let's bring it." So we bonded over that, and he called me. He was like, "Yeah, you should come up and audition." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll never ever get it, but
right?
Of course I'll give it a shot." And spent a lot of time burning those first couple audition songs into my head, which will always be there. I talk about
What
this
were
a
the
lot.
audition songs?
The main ones for me were Black Page, which is known
I was going to
as
ask.
yeah,
Which
it's known as one of the most impossible places to play. But the interesting thing about it, for the bass part, everybody else is playing these crazy compound numbers of 11 notes in the space of one beat and all that stuff. Literally, I wish I was exaggerating.
No,
but
I know. I
that's
mean,
the way Frank writes.
I've looked at it and just ran away in fear.
It's stuff you
so-
never see anywhere else. You never see 7/1 and 11 over. Like, it just doesn't show up. But the bass part keeps 4 for the whole time. It basically just keeps the groove. So I really just locked in on that, and I knew kind of what was going on top of it, but I knew as chaos was breaking right around me, I just had to keep 4.
All right,
But
so did you have to play the Black Page at the audition?
I didn't have to play the melody of the Black Page. I just had to get through the basic changes.
But so
of it.
somebody else was playing over it.
Well, here's the thing about the audition.
All right.
It was just me, Joe, and Dweezil in a room.
Wow.
And Dweezil wouldn't even play. He hadn't even learned that much of the material yet. So I had to play through a song like that, listening to the melody in my head while playing the bass part and just hearing the drums.
Because
And-
that's not a challenge.
yeah,
Nice
exactly.
job,
The
man.
stuff, but and this is why Jamie hated me right away, was because I was already so familiar with the material. I had 50 Zappa CDs at that point and had memorized most of them. And even if I didn't know the bass part, I could sing you the song. I knew the basic structure of the stuff. So even for the other songs, like especially once I got in the band and Dweezil would start calling tunes, me and Joe, being the super fans that we were, we'd just kind of start playing them. And Jamie and Sheila from the band would look at us and be like, fuck you. Like, I have to go home and listen to this song for the first time in my life, and you're already playing it, and it's got 27 bars of different time signatures in it and all that stuff.
Who was the original bass player on the Black
It was...
Page? The Black Page in the recording.
For the Zappa New York, it's Patrick O'Hearn.
Okay.
Who's playing Fretless. It's one of my favorites of that.
And unfortunately, more famous, for being in Missing Persons.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same with Bozio.
Yeah.
Bozio too.
Yeah.
But hey, they had some hits. So yeah, just having to go through the audition like that. There's another song that we had to play called "A Kid in a Zarf" of You, and that was just one of those songs that I had studied kind of theory wise and all that stuff. Never sat down and tried to learn. And I had a moment like he's talking about where I sat down to learn it. And went, wait, I have to play what? I've heard this song a million times, but the bass is actually doing... No way. No, it's just not going to happen. And I, put the bass down and walked away for an hour and was like, I can't do this audition. It's just never going to happen. I came back. I started piecing it together from, 2 notes at a time. This is before we had, the slow-down program.
So you did the thing where you kicked your own ass, and then you went, oh, fuck that, and you came back.
And rebuilt it from,
Good for you. Way it should happen.
Yeah,
Nicely
exactly.
done.
Yeah, the discouragement that I felt actually was encouragement on the back end in some ways, and that happened a lot of times with that band where it would be I have to play what? That's not in my ability, But you get there.
I literally can't imagine the kind of it's like running a hurdle race, but the hurdles are what most people do the pole vault.
Okay.
Right? That's what I gotta figure. It's like, I'm just going, I can jump that, what is it, 7 feet? Yeah, I got it!
Yeah, no
I got it! Hey, what time signatures is it? Run,
How many steps do I get? before I get there?
Exactly.
Well, there would be times on tour, we'd be on the road. We'd actually be in Europe somewhere, and then Dweezil would come, we'd get an email. It's like, hey, I want to do these 3 songs, tomorrow night, for whatever reason. He'd just all of a sudden want to start incorporating, and we'd be like, oh, we can't learn these 2. We're on the road. We don't have, the next night we'd be playing them. Mm-hmm. It would just be like...
Which is very similar to stories that I've always read about that Frank would, literally right before the show, oh, we're doing this. Throw out pages of stuff. It's like, yeah, we're going to do this time. It's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or change up the set list from night to night. That was another Dweezil favorite.
Yeah.
But it's it just keeps you on your toes, and it keeps the show fresh. And it was it was a really overall a really rewarding thing to be able to look back on and to have done. And I can't imagine now. I think back to in 06 when the band started, and it was because I don't know how, but none of us really knew each other before that. I kind of knew Joe through Dweezil. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know Sheila or you or Aaron, but I can't imagine, or Billy Helting was our percussionist, and I can't imagine the band being any different than it was. I couldn't imagine anyone else doing that.
Being able to pull it off.
Yeah. So I'm going to I want to play one more track, and then you've been sitting here patiently, quietly, and I've been ignoring just the crap out of you. My apologies. I want to play a track, and then I want to talk about Griffin Labs and sort of where things are at now. I don't know. I just happen to like the name of the track, Unafraid. Does that sound like a good one?
Go for it. That's the heavy one.
Oh, perfect. Because I'm all about heavy. This, once again, is Griffin Labs. This is Unafraid, because I'm not afraid to play it. And you better not be afraid to listen to it. And if you are, there you go. Golf clap.
That's not Unafraid.
Now I'm unafraid, and neither are you. That was intense. In fact, that actually sounds like Tool if they were really confused. No, what a great track. So we are unfortunately, you know what? I need a 2-hour show. That's what I need, especially
Definitely.
guys like you. So, you guys play every Monday single night at the Baked Potato.
Jamie does.
Yeah, Jamie does.
Yeah.
And you guys, because I know that he always posts about it. And this is where Lee actually comes into the picture. So you guys met at the Potato?
That's how I met him.
Yeah.
That's how I
Yeah.
met you too.
I don't remember how I found it, but it's an open jam. They like to say it's a pro jam, but everybody's welcome for at
Yeah.
least a song.
Right.
Everybody's welcome.
You'll get
2-3 bars in. Get the fuck off.
It happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, and if I show up on Monday, that's exactly what happened again. I'll be like, what pedal do I step on, Jamie? Get out of here.
You just get talked about out back.
Yeah, it's not to your face.
Yeah, it wouldn't be too rude. But I started going to that like almost 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because you guys have been doing it a long time.
Coming up on 9 years. So, yeah.
And it's a real tough thing to do when you just show up and, you know, they play an unbelievable first set of music. It's really only like 4 songs, but for about an hour with unbelievable soloing. Jamie and John Ziegler, his partner, who kind of leads that jam, are just phenomenal guitar players. So you come up feeling real good about yourself,
And that changes.
and then that happens.
One of the reasons I don't show up.
It's really intimidating. It took me years to get comfortable, and even to this day, it can throw me. But I just started coming all the time, every week, and just, you know, they became my friends, hit it off. And then when people were looking for band members, I actually used to go see the band as a fan. Griffin Labs, they would play at the Potato, and I saw them not at the Mint, but the place that closed that was on Hollywood Boulevard, the Knitting Factory.
Knitting Factory.
Yeah, and they did unbelievable shows. I couldn't believe how.
But
great
you
the
left
band
the show with
was.
socks, so that was good.
Well, yeah, you got to do that because otherwise you're flip flops. Anyway, but I used to wonder where on the depth chart I would be if they needed a second guitar player. It actually occurred to me, well, if they needed a guitar player, who would they go to? And I would be thinking about the names, and then Pete asked me one time, he said, so if we need a guitar player for a thing coming up, would you be willing to? I'm like, well, hell yeah.
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 Awesome. That's great.
Although my first thought was, that sounds hard.
I know that feeling.
Yeah. But I was into it. But it was all just from going to the Spud, watching them play.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And so I mean, so what is your background? I mean, obviously, look, most people, it's nobody just goes, hey, I feel like going to the Baked Potato. It's a musical. Again, it's a church. So what is your background that brought you to music, brought you to guitar, and certainly what brought you to the Potato?
Well, I told you I met Greg Howe, and I played with him, and I did a little solo on one of his albums. And so I just became interested in, virtuosic guitar playing.
Right.
And
being good.
Used to think I was a lot better than I actually was, and that's what took me to the Potato, thinking that I was actually pretty good. And then I've been basically going to school there for the last 5 years.
Right.
Learning a huge variety of things about music, about jazz, about fusion, getting exposed to other artists that I had never heard about before.
Sure.
Because I had a very straight rock upbringing.
Like what?
My early favorites were Led Zeppelin, of course.
Yeah.
And I loved Rush, who played an odd time.
Yes, they did.
And Zeppelin played an odd time, too.
Yeah.
But that was my kind of favorite thing at first. I never heard any fusion or jazz at all until much later on, and it shows.
And so when you first heard sort of jazz fusion stuff, what did you hear and what hooked you? What grabbed you?
Well, when you're playing rock, it does. I mean, there are guys like Eddie Van Halen or Yngwie Malmsteen.
Yeah!
Guys like that who
Right.
are pushing, or even Jeff Beck. Well, he's definitely playing fusion. There's a level of brilliance that there's really no ceiling on, that you can keep going. But at the same time, as a rock player, you start to feel like, well, I've sort of mastered the basic format of this music. What's next?
Right.
So that was the appeal of the Baked Potato and of what these guys were doing. and you know, it was the keyboard players who kind of floored me at first because they'd be playing these. Well, okay, the solo is in D minor, so okay, I can solo over top of that. But underneath that, everybody's playing all this shit, and I'm like, what are you? How are you doing that?
It's just one chord.
You know, it's one
Yeah,
chord.
yeah.
It's just D minor. But no, it's not D minor. You're playing everything.
Going everywhere.
How's that?
Yeah.
That never occurred to me. I had no idea how that shit happened until I started going there, and it's not a free education. You got to pay at the door. But it's a fantastic education.
But it's an amazing thing when your ear starts to get it, right?
Yeah. Oh my god.
No, in
Very
fact,
exciting.
that has been probably one of the greatest frustrations for me throughout my life as a musician is playing with musicians who don't get that, and they're just, I'm just going to play the root. I'm just going to play the root chord, and you're going, there's a bunch of other shit going on. They're going, no, just right here. And sometimes that's the right thing. Other times, fucking open up and see what the hell. I mean, just yeah. So I totally get that. And so now you guys are doing all this stuff. How often do you guys play?
Not as often as we would like, but we, the main point of this band is we all play with other artists. We
Sure.
all kind of make our money with our instruments in a lot of ways. So I've always wanted to
So
make
you
sure
mean
that
pawn
this
shops?
was. Yeah, really. I've always wanted to make sure that this was fun. You know, this
Right.
is something that everyone was doing because they wanted to do it, and so we don't stress too hard about booking gigs. We gig maybe once every 3 to 6 months. Our last one was when was that? January?
ago, yeah.
No, it was Super Bowl Sunday. Yeah, so it was early February.
You've seen those clubs with those real exclusive clubs with the velvet rope and the guy outside with the headset. And, think
Yeah.
of this band as that club.
except in reverse.
No, you're at the velvet rope going, would you come in? Come
Yeah.
in. No,
Please.
this is good.
Well,
I don't care what you dress like. Come on
Yeah,
in.
just come on in. But I am proud to announce that we have a gig coming up on April 19th, back again at the Mint. Yes, bring it on. We will be opening for our very, very good friends in the band called Volto, which features John Ziegler from the Monday Night Jams, who's
All right.
just an absurdly good guitar player, and his close friend, who is a drummer who goes by the name of Danny Carey, who happens to play for a little band known as Tool.
I have some of those in my shed, but what?
Yeah, no, they're a good band. If you haven't checked them
Yeah.
out or seen them in an arena near you, so they're always a lot of fun to play with. They always
Cool.
bring a great crowd. The band that we're playing also that night with is very similar, so it's just going to be an amazing night of music, which is kind of a hard thing to come by in Hollywood these days. It's
Completely.
a lot of times you go to see your friend's band, and the band before them are just fucking awful, and the band after them are just fucking awful, and
Yeah.
it's like, and I mean, taste is taste, but like, there's just no connection. Like the band before, like we've played some gigs where the band before us was like, who would think that this sounds like us? Like,
Right.
there's going to be no crossover. There's no shared space in the Venn
clearly
diagram.
the booking agent was like, who do we get? I don't know who's going to show up.
Right.
That's
And-
that
and-
is the bar that you have to get over.
and
Will you
prepay
be
for
there?
some tickets and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that
so
too.
that's kind of what it's become in this town, just because there's so many bands, unfortunately. So I'm really, really excited that this gig, Saturday, April 19th at the Mint,
Yeah,
will
well, no,
be a full night.
I will be there.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
please.
Oh, yeah?
Will be a
Yeah, no,
full
I'll
night.
be
of-
outside going, am I on the list? Am I on the list? I know these. I interviewed.
Radio.
Anybody have a quarter for a cup of coffee? That'll be me.
He's my roadie. It's
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. We'll
Can
make it happen.
Can I tune your combo?
Yeah. You guys need help in the kitchen back there?
Exactly right. I know how to make fries
Yeah.
or look at them.
Pete, is that one in 11?
Yes, exactly. Well, that's cool. And so, if people were to look you guys up online, is there places to find music?
GriffinLabsMusic.com.
And by the way, Griffin is not spelled, like
Normally.
normally.
Yeah.
So, how is it spelled?
GRYPHON.
Yep.
LABS.
Griffin
it's-
Labs.
Griffin is spelled like the mythical creature. If there are any Dungeons and Dragons players out there, that's
Now, there's
that's what I
9
was
hit
going
points
for.
when you roll the
exactly.
dice the right
Yes,
way.
exactly.
And also, Griffin Labs is also they make pharmaceuticals. You haven't told anybody about that.
We're getting there.
Yeah,
That's the main
exactly.
source of income.
Yeah, Griffin Labs is part of Big Pharma, and odd time signatures, and really good sedatives.
Yeah. Hydrocodone and
Yes.
9-8.
Yeah. That's a prescription I think I would take.
Pharmaceutical grade odd meters.
That's fantastic.
That's our catchphrase.
I was gonna, that is either a catchphrase or a CD title or something. That's it right there.
Our new
Yeah.
band tagline.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yep. Nicely done, Jamie.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, boys and girls, we have about 6 seconds left, which is what I tell all my girlfriends. So I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time. And yeah, time flies when you're having fun, and it certainly also flies when you pick up the clock and you throw it across the room. But that's different. So, Pete Griffin, Jamie Kime, Lee with the new hairdo, who's
Wortman.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, get it on
yeah,
camera.
totally cool.
He's a Hare Krishna.
Thank you guys so much for coming out and taking the time to be on this this maiden voyage of Eat Crow. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, April 19th, Saturday, April 19th at the Mint. If you are in the Los Angeles Bay Area, you know where you're supposed to be. If you're not in the Los Angeles Bay Area, hop a fucking plane and get the fuck out of here, because this is some really hard. It's not that hard. Look, it's easy to fly someplace. It's difficult to disappear. Ask the people in Malaysia. More on that later. But seriously, come on and check these guys out. There's not a lot of great musicians and great people that are out there really playing real music anymore, which is a sad statement. But these three guys are. And that deserves to be listened to, it deserves to be supported, and it deserves to be spread around. So not only listen to it, share it with your friends. Tell people that this is out here, because it's really, really cool. And even if you listen to it once or twice, you're going, I'm not really sure, it's not really like a hook, a poppy. Listen to it some more, and you will find something there. There's great stuff in music that is not necessarily pop rock. Take the time to find out what it is. It's worth it, and it will expand your sense of art and music everywhere. So if you need to start someplace, start with Griffin Labs. So that's all that's other than I have no opinion. Gentlemen,
that was
thank
beautifully
you,
put.
Thank you so much, and we will see you next week. Our next guest is going to be Mr. Sean Whalen, who's. That's not a wah. That
much
was
cooler.
That was my last chance.
There you go. We're going to hit that button a lot just because it feels so good. Thank you all so much. See you next week.
The skies darken and the lights start to flutter. The clouds move in and shadows appear. A man dashes from behind a withering oak and disappears into the billows of mist. We shall say farewell for now, but the crow shall returneth, and bring back with him we know not. Now join me for some fine drinks at Sunset with the Wise Guys.